Chaos Child, Steins Gate Elite has a program not letting you stream past the first chapter. Really bothers me, so. I plan to go back to it once again after so then, that's a while. I love that. I know why they do it. They do it for people that yeah, I know nothing about this thing except it's a sequel to Chaos Head, and I never really got far into Chaos Head because I had to animate it myself, and I wasn't a big fan of it. Unfortunately, that's the problem that I read with Chaos Child, is that great visual novel, but poor anime translation. So that's a thing. Baby. Oh, I should probably check the, because I gotta do the male voices myself. Or male voice main character. One second. Sorry, I gotta check something. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. November 6, 2009 AD, 10:28 p.m. He came without warning. Oh, that looked friendly. It was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake, with an epicenter directly under the city. This disaster reduced one of Tokyo's busiest downtown areas to nothing in a single night. The high-rise buildings that had birthed so many trends and fads collapsed, as if giving up on their role in society. Black fire spread through the city as individuals fell into the grip of the crowd's psychology. Their terror was magnified. Combined, all of these things took many lives. Oh. The final death toll was 3,851. The final number of injured, 30,927. This event would later be known as the Shibuya earthquake. Oh, yeah, it was an earthquake in Shibuya. Even in all that destruction, people had still suffered the most in their hearts. Oh. Some who lost their families came together to share new resolve, while others who'd been forced to watch their friends die were driven by guilt to take their own lives. This is dark already. As a baby was miraculously reunited with its parents after 72 hours, a child in an evacuation shelter asked her dad, "When's Mommy coming home?" He had no answer. Some of the wounded made it to hospitals by looking at the real-time updates on the web. Others saw people on the internet talking about the disaster as if it were a movie, and were driven mad. A homeless man was saved from malnutrition by an organized volunteer group. But at the same time, a middle school boy punched a self-centered volunteer who'd come to Shibuya to find himself in the face. It was the first time in that boy's life he'd ever been violent. The psychological toll was incredible, and many of the survivors would later manifest symptoms similar to those associated with PTSD. The young were hit the hardest, and before long the cause of those symptoms were given a name: Chaos Child Syndrome. Oh. Rebuilding happened at a feverish pitch I've never seen before. It felt inappropriate to say, "hang in there," but people felt that somebody had to do something. The new slogan was "Shibuya, a city reborn," and no amount of money or manpower was spared in aiding the endeavor. The whole town was in the grip of a fever. In private, a leader of the redevelopment efforts said, "This may sound unkind, but this frenzy feels like a town burying its grief by holding a festival." Building codes are rigorously evaluated with an eye toward earthquake engineering. Perhaps in an effort to emphasize the city's safety, security cameras were put up all over town. Shibuya would become a place where everyone could live in peace. But at the same time, a rumor began to spread about the earthquake. Something about this earthquake doesn't make sense. There were no aftershocks, and the damage had spread in a strange way. Harajuku and Ebisu, areas only a kilometer away from Shibuya, suffered few casualties and even fewer collapsed buildings. This damage pattern had never been observed in any prior earthquake, and so more than a few pundits telling that the Shibuya earthquake must have been artificial. More than anything, some of the survivors said the same things. I saw a white light. I heard a sound like ringing in my ears. Too many people experienced this for anyone to laugh it off, but no cause of those phenomena was ever found. It was just more evidence to those who believed that something about the earthquake had been wrong. Then, 6 years after the strange earthquake, in 2015, something else was about to attract attention in the reborn city of Shibuya. Ominous. Nitro. Pardon me. September 7th, 2015, Sunday night. Sorry, my throat's been killing me lately.
はい。ではいつも通り3分くらい募集をかけるんで適当によろです。
Oh, sorry. The second he spoke, the comment box started to fill. Yuma Utani watched it for a few seconds, and then he saw the request. When does Haru tell us she's dating somebody? He smiled to himself. Just what he wanted. Most of the requests were about hot actors or cute idols. His audience was so stupid that it was easy to tell exactly what they were going to ask. The problem was always whether the name that came up was someone he knew. That was a question of luck, and of how popular they were. But Haru. Her full name was Haruko something or other. She was fine. Ah. Fictional. Minor celebrity. Ah. No, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. Ah, okay. Just a few days ago, he'd forced himself to go to an event he'd rather have skipped and seen it for himself.
Yosh.
Satisfied, Utani got up to get some snacks, like he always did. He lived in a one-bedroom condo located 8 minutes from Shibuya Station. Cost 150,000 yen per month. That's about, I want to say, close to $1,400. Let me check, just to make sure. One second. It's closer to, it's close to $1,413, or it's $1,377. It had been built after the earthquake, so the furnishings and layout were modern. A little more room would have been nice, but compared to the 40,000 yen per month place he'd lived in last year, it was heaven.
来年にはもうちょっと便利なところに引っ越すか。
At 21 years old, Utani felt satisfied for the first time in his life. He looks older than 21. In 4th grade, he'd gotten big into online gaming and stopped going to school. Eventually, he'd stopped leaving his room altogether. Then he'd gotten addicted to drugs that made him sleepy, but did nothing else. Once seeing only darkness in his future, he planned to commit suicide. In the chaos after the earthquake 6 years ago, he'd finally managed to leave his room, but his family had already given up on him. This is sad. After he failed his entrance exams, he went to live on his own in Shibuya, and he hadn't spoken to his parents since. As far as they knew, he'd failed the exams 3 times in a row. In fact, he hadn't even gone to the tests after the first time. There wasn't anything he wanted to learn in college, or any companies he wanted to work for badly enough. He had no goal in his life at all. But things were different now.
アットちゃんにもたまには本当のことが書かれてるもんだ。チーズでいいか。
Oh, at channel again. He took a block of cheap cheese he bought at the supermarket out of the fridge. Usually he never ate anything this cheap. But on Nikoniya live streaming, it wasn't just what you said. How you looked when you said it was also mattered. Tani wasn't a good-looking man, let alone a cute girl. He was just a plain old guy, and so to keep his program popular, he needed to make him think that he was poor, barely managing to scrape by, in fact. That's why he kept the area around his PC and the parts of his apartment that you could see with his webcam completely plain. Last month, he'd finally reached his goal of 4,000 viewers. For a man with nothing going for him like Utani, this was extremely unusual. 3 months ago, he'd guessed the winners of a popularity contest a certain idol group was holding, as well as their total number of votes. That must have really paid off. After that, his numbers had been going up steadily. Late last month, when his streams had appeared at the top of Nikoniya's page, he'd seen a huge increase. Right now, he'd gotten above 4,500, and it was quite possible he'd break 5,000 by the end of the month. It was around late last year when he started to wonder about his power. There was a certain rumor on one of one of the occult boards that made him really start to realize what he had. Excuse me, my throat's kind of... The name he'd chosen for his stream subtly reflected this. And I learned that I can see the future. He took out a knife to cut the cheese. There was a strange sound.
Huh?
He thought he just imagined it when... Knock, 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 knock. He heard it again. It was coming from the door. Someone was clearly knocking on his door. Yeah, well, that's what I'm sorry.
Huh? 密林か?
Ah, it's Amazon. Jungle. Suspicious, he walked toward the door to answer, then checked the clock. It was 11:41 p.m. Not exactly normal delivery hours.
なんだよ。つか、生放送中だっつうの。
Yeah, I actually had Amazon deliver something at 9 o'clock the other day because it took them like a month to get my copy of Lord of the Rings in, so they delivered it at like 9:30. He tried to ignore it, but the knocking continued. It was the same rhythm at the same pace, as if the visitor's goal wasn't to come inside, but simply to make that sound. Utani felt a bit creeped out. He decided to go to the intercom camera and see who it was, but then realized that would be pointless. Only the auto-locking door on the first floor had a camera. The door to Utani's room on the 5th floor had an intercom, but no camera. Utani gave up.
くそ。つか、用ならインターホン押せよ。
Knock, 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 knock.
酔っ払いか?
No, the knocks were too steady for that. And there was no voice yelling at him to open up. He'd seen this door a million times, but suddenly it looked somehow different. Someone he didn't know was on the other side of the wall, demanding entry in the middle of the night. Somehow this made the door seem intimidating. Utani thought he might look through the peephole to see who was outside. He was then disgusted to find himself too scared to even get close to the door. Wait. The intercom didn't have a camera, but it did have a microphone. He turned toward the living room so he could use the intercom to find out what they wanted. Utani, it's me. Sorry to come by so suddenly. He stopped when he heard that voice. It's me. I'm very sorry to bother you at this hour. Utani tried to remember who the speaker was, but found he couldn't. But from the tone of his voice and the other words, they probably weren't a weirdo. When they said, I'm sorry, it sounded like they really meant it. Utani sighed softly with relief, then realized he was still carrying the knife he'd been using to cut the cheese. It suddenly felt stupid to feel so nervous. He quickly laid the knife on top of the sink.
はいはい、今開けます。どちら様ですか?
It's me. Don't you remember? The voice simply repeated itself. But who are you? Itani whispered to himself as he opened the door. Excuse me. Itani narrowed his eyebrows at the people standing there. He looked them up and down and then looked at their faces again. Their eyes met.
あんたら、どこのどなた?
Oh. Tony suddenly felt a piercing headache. Tony closed his eyes and put his right hand up to his temple. He could feel the blood pounding in his veins through his fingers. He staggered and quickly put his other hand against the wall to keep from falling over. The pain was like the old days when he'd overdosed on antidepressants, but much more intense. He grit his teeth again the pain, and dug his nails into the wall that was holding him up. As he waited for the pain in his fingers to help dull the pain in his mind. Mr. Utani, are you okay? He heard a voice he'd heard many times before, and felt a concerned hand on his shoulder. He somehow managed to ignore the pain and opened his eyes. A worried face was peering down on him.
大丈夫。最近たまにあるんだ。
Overwork, perhaps? You've been so busy lately. You shouldn't push yourself too hard.
相変わらず心配性だな、お前は。大丈夫だよ。さあ、入ってくれ。
He opened his mouth as wide as he could and moaned, trying to ease the pain as he led his important guests inside. As he turned his back to his guests, he told himself that it had been a long time since he'd seen them, or maybe not. It couldn't have been more than 2 months since they'd last met. It only felt long because he'd wanted to see them so badly.
そうだ。せっかく来てもらったのにすまん。生放送中なんだよ。
While he was out here, he decided he would cut some cheese for himself and his guests. Oh, don't worry about us.
いや、お前ら相手にそういうわけにもいかないだろう。ん?
What's wrong?
いや、なんでもない。
The blade wasn't cutting into the cheese. That's strange, he told himself as he pushed down with more force. He cut into its surface and made an unpleasant sound he'd never heard before. But no matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't go further. Confused, he yanked the knife back and forth like a saw, but it only cut in slightly deeper. It was as if there was something hard inside the cheese. And even though he'd only just taken it out of the fridge, it was slightly warm.
くそ、なんだよこれ。
Irritated, he slammed the handle of the knife against the cheese. But all it did was bash it a little. He couldn't cut through it.
ふざけんなよ。
I'll help you. His guests must have heard the sound because they rushed over. They had another knife. Where did they get that out? There's a trick to cutting this thing. They put the knife up against the cheese and began to move it with a practiced hand. Sounds like your work is doing well. They smiled at Utani, their voices slightly low. Utani realized that they were trying to keep their voices from being picked up by the streaming microphone, and lowered his voice as well. He grinned and nodded. his guests had introduced him to a firm that handled advertising space for popular websites, which had been giving him regular work. His reputation had quietly spread throughout the small web advertising industry, and soon he was getting more and more offers.
流行を予想することが肝なこの仕事は天職だよ。出来レースみたいなもんだ。
Then why do these streams?
一言では言いづらいな。強いて言えば自分がどこまでいけるか試したいみたいな感じなんだけど。
That's right. His power wasn't meant to be wasted on jobs that anyone could do.
誰も経験したことないから誰かに聞くってわけにいかないだろ。だから自分でやれるだけやってみたいっつうかってかっこよすぎかこれは。
No, it's wonderful, I think. And done. After he'd smacked it a few times, the cheese was all a little funny looking, but the even slices were lined up neatly on the plate.
悪いな、働かせて。
It's nothing. Go on, I'll wait until your stream is finished.
ああ、冷蔵庫の中適当に見繕ってくれていいから。ああ、静かにな。
Tony took his cheese back to his seat and saw a flood of comments reading, "He's late," and "Did he log off?" What should have been only 3 minutes had turned into more than 15. Tony put a bite of cheese in his mouth and began to chew loudly.
申し訳ない。この安売りセールしていたチーズがありえないくらい硬くて。
He apologized to the camera, remembering to keep up the act of being poor and starving. And as he hoped, the comments started to come in. Connie's face took on a confused expression. The comments were strange. He thought there might be something on the camera, but he turned around and saw only his fake poor room.
Eh, どうしました?
He spoke into the camera, but the comments still didn't make any sense, and they were coming faster. Maybe there was a problem with the camera. He reached his right hand out toward it. In an instant, his headache was back. It was the same pain as before. No, worse. He closed his eyes and jerked forward, banging his head against the desk. But the pain in his head was so bad that he didn't even feel it. He tried to hold his head in his hands, but for some reason his right hand wouldn't move. So instead he pushed his other hand up against his temple. It felt squishy. The vein was incredibly swollen, and it felt like rubber. And each time he felt the blood pulse through it, there was an unpleasant sensation in his fingers. He stamped his feet against the floor, hoping to find some small escape from the pain. But it didn't even get slightly better. Thank you, Drax. It's my cat singing to himself. He does that a lot. It was then that he realized he was crying. He could feel the tears coming from his eyes. The pain was moving there now, too. Drax. Unable to bear it, he opened his eyes. He gasped. The whole scene appeared in front of him like some kind of awful magic trick.
なんだこれ?
he suddenly heard the sound of something wet dripping on the floor. His eyes reflexively turned toward it. His right arm was gone at the elbow, and the stump was gushing blood. Oh. There was a pool of it on the floor, and the sound he heard was the new blood splattering into it.
Huh?
Utani didn't understand what had happened to him. What was going on? He'd just gone to check on a knock at the door. The pain screamed within him. Any sense of pain in what remained of his right arm was overcome by the pain in his head. He felt nothing from his arm at all, though he saw the blood dripping on the floor. What the hell was going on? He blinked and forced his aching eyes to function as he looked around the room. Was the cheese's arm? On top of his desk, he found the rest of his arm. Oh! It was sitting on a plate. At first, it looked like it was still in one piece, but it wasn't. Oh. It was neatly sliced into uniform pieces. Each piece was about a centimeter wide, and slices moved toward his fingers. They sat upon the plate in, roughly, his arm's original shape. Miraculously, he saw there was no blood on the tip of his index finger. He still didn't understand that it was really his own arm. But sheer disgust at what he saw caused him to leap out of his chair. What was this? What kind of prank was this? The contents of his stomach floated into his mouth. He vomited. The pink fluid squished against the desk. He saw something solid in the middle of it. It was a thumb. Oh. It was covered in bite marks, saliva, and stomach acid, but horribly, he remembered it. What? When had he put it into his mouth? In his pain-filled mind, he suddenly heard a sound he'd never heard before. Each time he heard the sound, the pain in his head got worse. He turned towards the camera, hoping for an answer to what was happening. But of course, there was none to be found. The screen was still filling with comments, but his eyes were too filled with tears to read them. And the whole world turned red. Connie didn't even realize that his lips were purple. His lips had turned to purple from the lack of oxygen. Lips were strained with red blood from his severed thumb, which he had chewed himself. Dark. He tried to fight the pain, he began to fall unconscious, and tears fell from his eyes. Tears seemed pink to him. Tani was weeping blood. He died, still facing the camera. Oh. His guest watched the chain of events unfold, then silently headed for the door. Just before they left the room. Goodbye. They said as if nothing was at all was wrong and shut the door. Oh. September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Oh, that's 5 days after my birthday, when I turned 20. Momone Takayanagi finished her concert, like always. She stayed behind to help put away the instruments. She even helped clean up the audience seats, even though that was the concert hall's job. Only after all of that was done could she take a break. There wasn't much time left before her solo street concert, but she still had to help anyways. She'd always been like that. Even if it weren't her responsibility, she couldn't help but get involved. Pardon me. It was like that in middle school, when one of her friends who wasn't good at studying asked her for test notes. Or in high school, when a girl she knew asked her how to make Valentine's chocolate for a boy she really liked. She'd stayed up so many nights and her own test grades were worse than her friends', and she didn't have even anyone to give chocolate to on Valentine's Day. In the end, it was the other person's responsibility, not hers, but...
要はヘタレなんだろうな。
Momone Takayanagi was, at heart, scared of not doing everything she could, even if everything wasn't her responsibility. The concert today was another big success. Sure, it was a tiny room that could only fit 150 people or so, standing room only. But tickets were 3,000 yen, high for a band with an amateur vocalist like her, and they still sold out instantly. It was bizarre how excited the crowd was. She'd heard sobs during the ballad, and during one of the high-tempo songs, the audience had stood up all the way to the back row. What is it, Drax? It's my cat. Drax!
ありえない。
She felt a chill and hugged herself tightly. It's not that her band wasn't popular. They'd started out in Nikoniya's Sang It category, and it kept going by doing covers of popular anime songs. It helped that her face, which had earned her the nickname Scarecrow in school, could really look good when she wore makeup. And if all of them put on ridiculous costumes and acted like idiots, some people would enjoy that. Videos of their concerts and performances pulled a decent number of views online. But Takayanagi noticed. The vast majority of people looking at the videos were people who'd come to her concerts. People who'd experienced that insane intensity were going back to the videos to try to feel it again. And Takayanagi knew that they probably wouldn't feel even 1% of it.
ありえないよ。
Ticket prices and audience size is one thing, but the strangest thing to her was their eyes. Their eyes pierced right through her, unblinking. They were like pets, totally dependent on their master. The meaning of the lyrics began to take over their lives, and they never questioned it.
やっぱり私の声はおかしいんだ。
When she first realized that this was happening, she tried to quit the band. Even if she couldn't, she at least wanted to stop doing the live shows, where people heard her directly. But the others around her wouldn't let that happen. Your voice is amazing, they would tell her. They forced her to keep going, even as the concerts began to terrify her. Takayanagi tried to get out of it, but in the end, she kept giving in. She owed her fellow band members for getting the plain, dull girl like her into music. And for a while, part of her managed to have fun. But in the end, Takayanagi lacked the tiny bit of courage she needed to break out of the cycle. She forced herself to get up and head toward the street concert, which she didn't really want to do. She received an email. She read it slowly.
嘘。
She almost dropped her smartphone. She read it again and again, trying to control her shaking hands. It was nothing special, just a simple message about one of the songs she'd made. Good song, keep it up. Takayanagi tried to stop the tears, but couldn't. The band would get too many messages like this to count, especially after concerts. She knew it was rude, but to be honest, she was sick of them. But his email address wasn't for her band. It was for a site where she had anonymously uploaded original songs. In other words, whoever sent the message hadn't come to her concerts. They'd never heard her voice live or felt its strange power. But they had still said they liked her song.
マジですか?
Wiping away tears that wouldn't stop, she quickly wrote a response. Makes me really happy, thank you. Even after she sent it, she kept crying for a while. She hadn't cried this much since the earthquake. And then she stood up.
こんなもん!
She took her costumes out for the day's concert out of her bag, balled them up, and threw them in the trash. It was a white caped outfit worn by some angel character in some anime. Certain fans really loved it, but she didn't care about it at all. She took a wet towel off a nearby table and violently wiped away her makeup.
こけしで上等だっての!
She was never wearing another cape or putting on makeup to look like an anime character again. Never, she said out loud. She realized that she was more excited than she'd ever been before. And then she started to realize what she wanted to do.
いっそのこと渋谷を離れるってのもありか。どうせいろいろゴタゴタしちゃうんだろうし。
What would happen if she said she was going to quit the band? It had caused some trouble for a lot of people, definitely. Her band was scheduled to play in the Restoration Festival. But even so, she never wanted to sing at another concert.
いつもストリートライブをやってる道は常連さんと勝ち合っちゃまずいから避けて。大丈夫か、この顔だし。
She laughed and kissed her smartphone.
やばい。楽しい。
She couldn't wait to get home and start fiddling with her music. Over the web, she could really share her music with others. As long as they weren't hearing her voice live, it would be fine. If she just played a recording from a speaker, for example.
小型のスピーカーなら家にもあったな。
That's right. She'd leave Shibuya, and when she had a few more songs, she could record them and play them at a street concert. That speaker was small enough that she could fit it under her clothes to fool people. It wouldn't be rude to do the same song every time, so each time she'd re-record it at home. Oh shit. There was a knock at the door. One of the staffers, maybe?
あ、もう出ますから。
Oh. smiled and answered them. Now that she'd thrown away her clothes, her bag was lighter than she'd ever imagined it could be. That lightness made her think about the future. She was happy. Kayanagi happily danced toward the door, completely ignorant of what was on the other side. September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Shortly after she finished, she was walking through Shibuya. She had a limp and dragged one leg behind her as if it was injured. Her bangs were unnaturally long. Most of her face was covered by them. She wore a dark-colored dress that seemed to meld into the night, and above it a bright red cardigan. Her chest, arms, and legs were almost completely covered. Despite the fact that the night was still warm, she wore gloves, as if it were a sin to show any skin at all.
Ah, ごめんなさい.
But she didn't even look at the people she ran into. She looked down and disappeared into the streets of Shibuya. Oh, wrong one.
誰? 決めな。
ねえ、今の人の顔見た？
んだよ。
気持ち悪い。何あれ？何？あの目。
For example, let's say you asked a kid in middle school, do you know what the Schrodinger's cat is? Most would say yes, or I've heard of it. We'll start by examining the Dons who said they've never heard of it. Doki. Okay, sorry, Doki. I've heard of people who are stupid and social or delinquents. Next you ask, well, what was it? Next we eliminate those poor fools who say, it's something about a cat in a box, right? Or there's this cat, but you don't know if it's alive or dead, right? Or maybe they say, there's a cat in a box. Next to it there's a device that may or may not give off poison gas. You don't know if the cat's alive or dead until you open the box. Everybody knows that. We can eliminate these show-offs as well. Anybody from these groups is called a wrong-sider. As a wrong-sider. The right answer would be to describe the experiment and then say, It was a thought experiment proposed by Schrödinger to criticize the quantum mechanical theory that state collapse only occurs after human observation. Sorry, that took a second. But barely anyone could do that. I'd imagine that I'm the only guy who's still in high school that knows that Schrödinger got the idea after exchanging letters with Einstein. I hate wrong-siders. I'd taken a break from investigating the 2 incidents that occurred recently in Shibuya, and was paging through some at-channel block aggregators for a change of pace. As always, articles about bad idols and corporations with terrible work environments were getting tons of hits. It was hard to believe that the crash of 15, a huge news story that just happened this month, was already off the front pages. Did the people reading and commenting on these sites realize that everything they read about corporations and idols is carefully controlled? Do they know that most of the big aggregator sites are corporations too? Did they realize that the comments were all manipulated to go one direction or another? Kids our age were living in a world where all the information you could ever want was right at your fingertips. To those of us in the enlightened generation, ignorance was the worst sin. The ignorant were self-righteous, easily manipulated, and eager to push their paper-thin worldview onto others. They were nothing but a nuisance. The worst of the lot were so-called otaku. I can't stand otaku. They were wrong-siders. Take the picture on the cover of this magazine. It was from Bloodtoon. Any otaku who just watched it for the cute characters was a loser. There was no point in watching the show if you were going to ignore its deeper themes. I couldn't stand people who held the old-fashioned idea that only otaku watched anime. But people who ignored the show's themes and just watched it for the cuteness are even worse. They were ignoring the implicit social criticism hidden in... What? I stared at the magazine in amazement. Specifically, I stared at the box that listed the next episode previews. The text said that Aaron was missing. Idiots. Damn it! I'd let my guard down just because I knew this episode was written by the guy who wrote the original manga. The original author doesn't know anything about his own work. How could you remove Aaron from the story halfway through? Not keeping her around meant bringing all the internal drama that had been built up to God damn it. So much for my change of pace. I knew I had to work on the case, but I'd put it away because I couldn't find any link between the two crimes. I thought for a moment, then took my magazine from its secret stash. It was an issue of an older magazine called Cool Cat Press. People called it a dating guide for normals written by someone who'd never dated a girl in his life, but you'd be surprised. Magic words to make any girl fall in love with you. Stupid. I knew it was stupid. But when I ran an internet search for their #1 phrase, nothing came back. And that was the thing. The fact that it didn't show up on the internet meant, to me, that it was worth something. I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you?
何 を？
What are you doing? I turned to yell at the voice.
ん？
Onoe, when did you get here? I hid my favorite magazine behind my back and tried to calm my racing heart. Even if we'd known each other since we were kids, don't just come in like that.
ノックしたよ。てか、何その雑誌、面白いの？
It's nothing. I couldn't let her find out. This was bad. What's going on? Why are you wearing your uniform? Didn't you go home? Serica frowned.
今日の部活で事件のこと調べてこいって言ったのタコじゃん。
Since I'm being a kid, my pitch is a little bit higher than usual, so since I'm a high school kid. Huh, that's right.
はい、これ追加の現場周りの画像データ。
Serica took a USB memory stick out of her purse. Oh, thanks. Could you transfer it to my computer for me while you're at it? Serica looked a little confused.
珍しいね。自分の PC 触らせるなんて。
Not really. You're allowed.
ふん。
She didn't seem to think much of it as she started to copy the data off. Okay, now's my chance. The RV was cramped, but there was a lot of space for storage. I pretended to make tea as I tried to find room on the top shelf. Okay, there's just enough room for one more magazine. And then I heard a pshoo pshoo sound like a small fart from behind me. I glanced my back and saw that Serica was using the mouse with one hand and fiddling with her Garo Froggy Garoro strap with the other. This was my chance. The Garo Froggy Garoro strap was a soft vinyl cell phone strap I'd won in a candy contest when I was a kid. When you pushed it belly, it was supposed to go Garo Garo. It turned out to be an incredibly rare prize that could fetch 100,000 yen in an auction. But since I was a kid who didn't know any better, I gave it to Serica as a present. Serica seemed happy. Serica seemed to really like it, and ever since she'd carried it with her. Which, well, that was fine, but it was old and faded, and when he pressed its belly, the air leaked out of its side and made a weird noise. It used to go Garo, Ro, Garo, I think, but now it's just made a strange whooshing sound. Ever since she was a kid, she'd had a habit of fiddling with it, especially when she was nervous or focused on something. In other words, she was focused on the computer. Now was my chance to hide it. I jammed the magazine onto the shelf and moved some things around so she couldn't see it. Want a mountain view?
いいよ、もったいないじゃん。それにすぐに帰るし。はい、終了。
There are quite a few files on the screen. You took a lot of pictures. Any luck?
新しい発見はなかったよ。タクは新しい共通点見つかった？
No. I shook my head, frustrated.
そっか。まあ、
Oh,
気
she
長
didn't
に
see
行
anime
こ
girl
う。
wink.
じゃあ明日部室で。
Just as she was about to leave, I got an idea. Oh, Onoe.
Hmm?
I needed to double check my information. She was, in theory, a girl. I'm just asking, but... well, let's say someone asked you out. Just hypothetically, okay? What would you think if they said, I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you?
さっき言ってたやつ?
Never mind that. What do you think? Sarika thought for a second.
年下なの? その人.
What? Huh?
丁寧語だから.
That's true, come to think of it. Why was it so polite anyway? Maybe they are? I mean, never mind that. What do you think?
どうって、丁寧だなって思うけど。告白されたことないからよくわかんない。
Anything else? Like, oh, how romantic?
別に相手によるんじゃない?
Grr. What's going on here, cool cat? It would depend on the person asking the question. Of course it would.
そうだ、忘れてた。
Sarika stretched out her hand.
500円ちょうだい。
Huh?
これこれ、忘れてた。
She showed me the paper bag she was holding.
さっきそこでゲンさんに会ったの。特にいつものだって言って渡してくれって。特価で500円でいいって立て替えたの。
My usual? Confused, I took the bag from her. Gen's usual changed every time I talked to him, so I couldn't count on it. What was it today? That drunk old bastard!
何? いつものって。
Nothing! Here, 500 yen! I forced 500 yen into her hands. Ignoring her persistent questions, I led her to the door. I'll see you at school tomorrow.
え?
Thanks for the pictures. They're a big help.
わかったよ。
Reluctantly, she left my room. Whew. Damn it. Sure, this was what I'd always bought from Gen. But the information in the last one was no good. What the heck was a cool cat anyway? A cold cat? Is it cold because it's dead? 100 ways to secretly show your sexy side. No. I needed to hide this too. But I had so many of them now, I was running out of room for on the top shelf. Uah! When I tried to force it in, a mountain of old papers came falling out. Damn it! No room, huh? What's this? It was an old scrapbook about the murders that occurred 6 years ago in Shibuya. I'd bought it from Gen too, come to think of it. I'd already scanned it, but I'd forgotten to throw out the original. How could I, of all people, be so lax with information? I just have to bundle it up with the rest of my collection. Huh? My eyes lingered for a second on the page. Come to think of it, I quickly ran over to my PC. I opened the files on the case that I'd been looking for. Seriously? My words were a whisper. Seriously? Sorry. I looked back at the scrapbook and compared it to the data on the PC. There was no doubt. I kept looking at it, and I kept saying the same thing. But this... if my hypothesis was right, I'm sure even the police haven't noticed. I can't read any of this. Too bad. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, damn it. That was a huge skip. Backlog. At this point, only a few people were talking about the sumo wrestler stickers. Who could have known that these eerie stickers would mark the beginning of a world-changing event? 9/29/2015. And so this is a magazine article about the incident that occurred on the 7th. Press the wrong button, sorry.
7日ってニコニア生放送中の公開自殺か。読んだよ、その記事。
Looks like anime me. We don't know for sure that it was a suicide, though. People on the net are calling it the "Don't Look at Me" case. There's a video of the broadcast. Okay.
それも見た。つうか一緒に見ただろう。
And here's the building it took place in. Onoe took more photos from me yesterday.
それも知ってるって。
And this is the inside of his room.
は？嘘！お前。
How do I turn off the skip thing? Hang on. Let me just double check. Where's my phone? I'm gonna save. I won't have to redo all this stuff. Where's...
撮ったの？いつ？てかどうやって？マジで？
What? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. Last weekend, you can see the room from the 5th floor of the karaoke place on the other side of the street. Here. This is the 5th floor. Turn off the skipping thing. There it is. Alright, I guess I'll just deal with it for now. You'd always count on him to be interested when giving you information.
で、何？お前一人で入ったのか？
Huh?
いやいや、カラオケボックスに。人から？
I didn't have a choice, did I? And it's not embarrassing. I didn't sing, so it wasn't really karaoke. A little bit of information that's neat you might not have known, or you might know, I don't know. Depends on who all reads visual novels and likes Japan stuff. Karaoke, or karaoke as it's pronounced in Japanese, means empty orchestra. So it means you're singing to music without a track that has vocals on it. So singing to a track of music without vocals, that's what karaoke means. So there you go. To be honest, I was a little embarrassed. The guy at the counter, who was probably just a part-timer, stared at me suspiciously. There we go, I turned off the thing. Maybe I'd attract his attention by coming in during the middle of the day in my uniform. Since I'd never been there before, he made me fill out membership paperwork. I didn't know how to do it, so it took a long time. And actually, I'd actually never been to a karaoke place before in my life.
よし、ここは OK。次行こうぜ。
This is such a pain. We went over to the gym from the second floor hallway. It was filled with students laughing over who knows what. I'd love to see that, but we don't have art for that. The whole school was getting ready for the Culture Festival next week. This year's festival was supposed to be a big one. Ekiho Academy was the first private school built as part of the restoration efforts, and so it was attracting a lot of attention. Okay, it's in Shibuya. One reason why everyone was so excited for the school fair was for the school's lax rules, with lots of clubs and activities. But the biggest reason was the Shibuya Peace and Restoration Festival 2 months from now. 2 months from now, on November 9th, would mark 6 years since the Shibuya earthquake. The 5-year anniversary fair last year had affected the whole town. And since the school was in Shibuya too, it would include us. We were just a simple high school, but now our culture festival was being treated as a prelude to the big one. And supposedly there would be TV cameras filming the day of the event.
うわ、あのパチモンの着ぐるみ大丈夫かよ。つかなんで今来てんだ？
Ito turned his camera toward the group of people pretending to be pro wrestlers. Ito and I were in the newspaper club, and it was our job to record the festivities. The principal had ordered that all the clubs were to participate in the culture festival, and recording the festivities was our way of getting by without having to do much work. Recording video and taking photos was my hobby, and more than anything, it seemed like the way that I would demand I burn the fewest calories. I couldn't see myself participating in any of the usual festival nonsense, like the baseball team's fried baseball ice cream stand, which was probably just regular fried ice cream in a ball, or the Pro Wrestling Research Club's Mascot Pro Wrestling, or even the seance that the Mystery Club and Fortune Telling Club were putting on together. They probably don't have any... They probably just don't have anything better to do.
ヒゲを引っ張んなってもげる
Huh?
はあ、これ触覚じゃないの？
どう思うよ。触覚だとしたらもいだ方がゆるキャラっぽくないか？
え、何？私そのくだらない質問に答えなきゃダメ？
くそリア充ただれろ死んでしまえ
Hey, don't make fun of normals. I'm a normal.
Huh?
Hey, you idiot! The camera! He dropped it. That thing's expensive.
おいどういうことだ
You're hurting me. Wait, the camera!
裏切ったのかレベル下がったかいつ彼女なんて作りやがった
Huh? I don't have a girlfriend. But forget that. Pick up the camera.
何
Looks like a Nikon D100. Maybe a little newer than that, though. I slipped out of Ito's grasp and picked up the camera. Looks like it's safe. Good. I relaxed and handed the camera back to Ito. Jeez, get a hold of yourself. We're not like them. We're right-siders, right? Want me to give you a lecture about it? Listen, the term normal first came into use on the Japanese internet around 2005. It referred to someone whose daily life was fulfilling and satisfying. Originally, the term netizen existed as its antonym. But that distinction barely exists anymore. That's because the net is now an integral part of everyday life. Excuse me while I get a drink of tea. Unsweet Nestle Pure Leaf Tea. I think it's Nestle. Lipton. Pardon me. When it first came into use, simply having friends was enough to qualify one as normal. But gradually this requirement shifted into having a lover. But this too is changing. The modern definition of normal is now someone whose life is truly satisfying. That is, someone who's doing what they really want to do. In that sense, I'm a normal. Therefore, the people over there who are screwing around and wasting time aren't normals at all. You need to use the words correctly. Seriously, he needs to be careful. Just being a wrong-sider by itself is a sin these days. After I finished my lecture, I saw that Ito was staring at me wordlessly. No, I did not understand it. I'd walked him through the entire etymology.
Miyashiro.
What?
お前はリア充じゃないよ。言葉は正しく使おうな。
Dude, okay, whatever. Huh? Why?
リア充はそんなこと言わない。
Wait, why? And you know, I've got acquaintances who are women. Of course, men too.
だから、リア充はそんなこと言わないんだよ。
But what's the reason? And may I also add... I quickly swallowed my words. I'm studying fashion too. I'd read in the new issue of Cool Cat before I put it away. There was an article called Utsunomiya's Fashion Leader. I thought it looked pretty good. If I could wear that stuff, I'm sure.
ん？なんだよ。
Nothing. I'm telling you, I'm...
ああ、わかったって。次行こうぜ。
As he walked away, I turned my eyes toward the group of mascot pro wrestlers.
わかった。じゃあもう全員で同じ着ぐるみにしようぜ。
ああ、戦隊もの風だ。
あ、スーパー戦隊。
色分けしようよ。私イエロー。
その方が受け取れるか。でも予算は？
あんたの小遣いがあるじゃん。
バカじゃないの？
それか、体に直接塗るか。受け取れればいいんでしょ。
I'm busy.
おかえりなさいませ、ご主人様ケロン。
可愛くなくね？もうちょっとどうにかなんね。
可愛くないとか言うな。てか別にウェイトレスって女子限定じゃなくてもいいじゃん。男子もやんなよ。
ゲロカエルンってあんな語尾で喋るキャラクターだったっけ？
Ito had just finished recording the goings on in the classroom. It doesn't matter. This was class 3-1, Ito's in my class. Most of the class was busy with the Garo Froggy Cafe we were doing for the festival. Some people were ignoring the fuss and studying. Some of the otaku were talking about light novels. Did they really think that if they left the paper cover from the bookstore on it, we couldn't tell it was a light novel? They were just trying their best to stay out of the way. Most people were happily making Garo Froggy decorations, or putting on Garo Froggy costumes and messing around. All the clubs had to participate in the festival, but so did all the classes. No one had told me, but evidently several months ago we decided to do a Garo Froggy themed cafe.
はっか、ゲロカエルの声は女じゃん。
いや、そうだけどさ、そこは文化祭のノリ的なあれでいいじゃん、別に。
That's wrong.
Huh?
Ito tilted his head in confusion. I decided to get back on topic. I took out my Pokécom and showed it to Ito. So here's the images from the 19th of this month.
音漏れたんか。どれ？お、これはまだ見てないな。どこで拾った？
It showed up for an instant on an aggregator wiki. I scraped it before it got deleted.
ああ、こっちの方がアングルいいな。なあ、さっきのカラオケのやつと合わせてニア道にアップさせてくれよ。
I've already upped it to the newspaper club's online storage. Make some adjustments so it's easier to see, then do what you want with it. Web service offers server side storage space to users. Okay.
なんか最近再生数がいまいち伸びないんだよな。この前俺一人で作った動画のタグにもカメラ仕事しろとかアングル大体合ってないとか書かれるし。
Ito looked really upset. Well, I knew how he felt. The Hekiho Academy Newspaper Club had been the first in the nation to upload a video version of the school paper to Nikoniya. Our papers dealt with anything involving Shibuya. We'd done a special on the Shibuya restoration once that a local paper had been written about. We won a special prize at the city journalism contest, and the video got over 80,000 views despite being boring as hell. After that, though, I could understand being upset at the fact that new videos dealing with goings-on at Shibuya weren't breaking 2 digits. Oh, I was the one who put that cameraman do your damn job tag on. That angle was crap, man.
じゃーん、ゲットしてきた。
おお、オリジナルじゃん。
疲れた。
A boyfriend and girlfriend walked in, evidently back from shopping. Their arms were full of Garo Froggy stuffed animals. I told you that's wrong.
は？いえ、だから何がだよ。
Ito hadn't noticed then. I looked at my classmates who were already beginning to play with their new toys and said, I've told you this before, right? You can't tell your average teenager's information level by knowing what sites they go to. This was a personal theory of mine. Smartphones and pocket comms have become a religion in a modern teenager, and the information they gained from these portable terminals had a huge influence on their lives. Some people only looked at SNESs like Twitter, Ryan, and Facebook. Others had Atshan and Nikonia. Facebook. Twitter, Pocketcom. Some looked at all those, as well as the links they found there. And then some looked at those things, as well as their favorite celebrity blogs, the big @chan aggregators, and then whatever humor sites was popular at the moment. Sorry, there's a lot of reading here. All of these people were wrong-siders. And the scary thing was that these days, 9 out of 10 wrong-siders were teenagers. Garo Froggy launched 6 years ago with a cell phone strap that had gotten popular for reasons no one ever understood. And then lately, a combination of Garo Froggy memes on Twitter, as well as an amateur anime posted to Nikonia. If I remember right, it was a talking, dancing frog singing anime themes. I created a fad, though I hated to use the word for something so stupid. It amazed me that people were honestly believed that the rabbit sounds made by the female actress in those videos were from the original. Or that the original was a stuffed animal that had come out recently and not the phone strap. My guess was that the only one who got their information was that they only got their information from Twitter. And a man can't be a waitress, he's a waiter. This was one of the reasons I joined the newspaper club. I didn't want to end up like them. Anyway.
宮代くん?
A girl, evidently the one in charge of the waitresses, was talking to me. Ugh. Who was she again? Fujita? Fujimoto? I think there was a Fuji.
何？田中さん。
Tanaka, I was totally wrong.
さ、教室で流す映像のビデオ撮影のことなんだけどさ。
What was she talking about? Oh, right. They're going to make their own version of the Nikonia videos, where they wore costumes and danced.
アップとかできるのかな？こう、ずっと同じで撮るんじゃなくて。
Oh, I'm already on for an hour and a half. What? Was she telling me what to do? What was she telling me what to do? There we go. I didn't volunteer to videotape it. You guys forced me. Well, it was better than being told to dance and make props myself. Oh, well, You see,
Hmm?
I'm gonna take a break for a little while. Thanks for watching.